Would you say that you're more of a friend to the world than you are a friend to God? Let's talk about that on today's 10-Minute Talk. Hello, friends, and welcome to today's 10-Minute Talk. My name is Pastor Jay Wentworth, and I'm the lead pastor here at Spirit Alive Wesleyan Church in Yakima, Washington. Thanks for being here, and we are glad to talk about this subject today. So the very question you heard before the intro, are you more of a friend to the world than you are a friend to God, was asked at our youth group last night, and one of our youth, Marcos, a great young man, said that he is more of a friend to the world because he gives more to the world than he gives to God. And he was being totally open and honest and humble and saying that. And friends, the more I thought about that answer, the more spot on I thought it was for most of us here in the world. I really don't think we can say that we're more of a friend to God than we are to the world in most cases. And I think for myself, and I said this last night, I think I'm more of a friend to the world sometimes and more of a friend to God sometimes. But the problem is you can't serve two masters, as it says in Scripture. Speaking of Scripture, let's get to today's Scripture, which is James 4:4. And it says, "You adulterous people, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God." So boy, that is a tough scripture to hear. And James is so forward with his writing and really lets us know how it's supposed to be and how it actually is. And that is really hard for us to hear, that when we're friends with the world, that means we're enemies of God. It doesn't mean we're just not friends of God at that time. It means we're enemies. And to be honest, friends, are we really friends with somebody if we're not friends with them 100% of the time? What if you had a friend and 50% of the time you were friends with them and 50% of the time you were their enemy? Would they really call you their friend? Well, I think we would all say the answer is no, except that's what we do to God. We spend half our time in love with the world and half our time in friendship with the world, and then we come to church or we do our devotional every day, and that other half we're friends with God. Well, friends, you can't have your cake and eat it too, per se, in this situation. You have to figure out how to put God in every part of your life. And if there's a part of your life that is dark, that is evil, that is hidden, and definitely cannot have anything to do with God, then friends, we have to get rid of that part of our lives. We cannot hold on to that. And that is what is so difficult. Now, where is your heart when you're having that issue? If your heart is where Paul's heart was in Romans 7 when he says, "I do the things I don't want to do," knowing that you don't want to do that. You don't want to be friends with the world. Because listen to the second part of the scripture here, and this is the part that I think people miss. "Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God." So when your desire is to sin, when your desire is to kind of just be away from God for a minute and do whatever you want and then come back to God later, and that's your desire, that is when you defriend God or unfriend God, per se. It's not necessarily when you mess up, because you probably don't want to mess up, or some of us don't want to mess up. But when you get in that habit where you have that desire and you wish to do something wrong, then it's a bit different, right? Then it becomes something that you long for. And that is a true sign of a relationship with that false thing. Let me give you an example of what this is not, that actually My friend Mike last night in our small group, again in our small group and youth group last night, dropped this gem of an analogy. Mike said that he worked at a certain place and got off at a certain exit on the highway every day for like 10 years. Okay. So he worked at that place. That was his routine. That's what he did. All right. Now equate that to I was a sinner. I did this sin every day. I had this desire every day. And then I got a new job. Or if you put it in the spiritual sense, I became a Christian. And I had to go take a different exit that was later down the road. But every now and then I would forget. And on the way, I would still get off at the old exit. And I would wonder, what am I doing here? Why am I here? Wow, what a great analogy for this situation in Scripture. Because sometimes we have this new friendship with God and our old friend, the world, distracts us. And we get off at the wrong exit. But here's the thing. If you say this, what am I doing here? This is not where I wanted to go. That means you have become friends with God. Because what you're saying is, I don't wish to be here. I didn't want to take this exit. But if you say, well, I think I'll just to reminisce, I'll stay a while. Oh, friends, that is becoming friends with the world. And God calls us to be in the world, but not of it. So if you take that exit and then you say, you know what? I took this exit. Maybe I'm here for a reason. I need to spend this time to think about God, to talk about God, to show these people at this exit that I've taken about God. That is in the world, but not of the world, because your mind is still focused on God. Your purpose has become His purpose, to spread Him to the world, to share Him with the world. The Great Commission, to make disciples. Because friends, sometimes God is going to let you get off at that exit with the purpose of you fulfilling the Great Commission. And sometimes it's not even going to be an accident. He's going to tell you to go to a place where maybe there might be a temptation for you. Now, that doesn't mean He's tempting you. The enemy is going to tempt you where God is sending you. But God is sending you there to prove to the enemy that your friendship with Him is more powerful than your friendship with the enemy, that more powerful than it ever was, and more powerful than your friendship with the world ever was, because you can be in the world. This is the power of God and not of it. You can be around that temptation that used to take you away from God every day and say no. And move past it. And even work in it and through it, the whole time being led by the Spirit. How powerful is that, friends? Now that is friendship with God over friendship with the world. That's the difference. Friendship with God over friendship with the world means you can be in the world, but still only think about God and only wish to be with God. And even more than that, tell other people how great your God is. So friends, here's your questions for today, and I'm going to give them both to you at once. Okay? That's what I'm going to do. Question number 1 is as follows. Do you give more to the world or more to God? What do you give more to? More of yourself, more of your time, more of your heart? The second question is, how can you give more to God? What is the area of your life that God is in deficit, that there's not enough God, that you need to give more of it to Him? It might be finances, it might be time, it might be service, it might be giftings that He's given you that you're not giving to His people that you should be. How can you give more to God? So, friends, that's it for today. Really, just thank everybody else for giving me this message, because as you could tell, that content was things that God gave me through other people. And friends, a lot of times that's how it works. When you're friends with God, you're friends with God's people, and they share with you as well. Thank you for your time today. We love you. Have an amazing day. God bless.